don't often hear people say that, right? What are the benefits of judgment? I just named the message today, benefits of judgment. I don't know why, but it's a lot in here that I think we need to take a look at today so we can get a proper understanding moving forward in our journey with the Most High. Let's get here. Okay, here you go. I'm going to share my screen. Got a couple of more people coming in. Does anybody want to have any remarks before we get started, or any contributions or anything? Want to give a shout of praise to Yah for something that you want to that was on your mind or your heart? Anyone? If not, it's okay. We're not like, the New Testament where, I'm going to force you to give a empty praise. Of course, we all have a lot to be thankful for, right? But, the religious people, they talk about a lot of stuff that they really shouldn't be talking about. They just be making up stuff just to be saying something. So we're not going to do that. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So this Torah portion, of course, is called Shoptim. Generally during the week, we do the 1 hour. We try to keep it in an hour, and today is 2 hours. So bear with me, get some water, get your pad, your pencil, be prepared, take some notes. Today's a double portion. Today's a double portion of everything that we've learned over the week. I'm not going to be able to go over every single detail, but what I did do is try to bring out some points about judgment that we should know about, okay? So we're going to cover what they call Mishpot, which is dealing with judgment, even though the Torah portion is named Shafatim. Shafatim is the idea of judges, okay? That's what that means. Shafatim means judges, okay? But the actions and the responses from the judges are to do this, is to bring Mishpot. And Mishpot is judgment, okay? It's judgment, right? So judges bring upon judgment, right? And then we're going to talk about this other area here called Shemo, which is important to understand. And Shemo means, the first part is Shem, which means name. And then the O on the end in Hebrew is his. So we're going to talk about his name and what the significance of his name is in regards to judgment, okay? Judgment is not a bad thing. Judgment is actually a good thing. I'm looking for class participation, so I'll be asking you some questions today that that relates to the Torah portion that you read over the last 7 days, okay? And I want you to give some insight. I'm not looking for right or wrong answers. And, you have to accept, as I tell the Hebrew class all the time, you got to be okay with making mistakes, because that's what learning is about. So I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot when I'm asking you a question and you don't get the answer right. It doesn't mean that you're worse of a person or nothing. It means that you're open to learning. So you have to respond. So don't hold back. If you have an answer the question. Okay. Let's see here. So our father, Avraham, okay, that's what Avraham, Avinu, Avi means my, and then Nu is our father. He said this. This is the first time that, he uses these terms of Hashaphat and Mishpat together. It means, for far be it from you. And this is in Bereshith chapter 18, known as Genesis. He says, far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, okay? Treating the righteous and the wicked alike. Far be it from you. Will not the Hashaphat, meaning the judge of all the earth, do, and in English it says do right. I replaced that word with the Hebrew word that's in the text that says Mishpat, right? So this idea of this judge, Yah is the judge over all the earth, okay? He's the judge of all the earth, and everything that a person experiences on this earth has to go through the judge of the earth, okay? And Avinu our father Abraham is asking the judge of the earth to do mishpat. He wants him to do mishpat, not just to do what's right, but to do this, And so we're going to look a little deeper today to find out what does this literally mean. Okay? That's what we're going to be looking at. So it's not just, well, let's just do judgment, or let's just do what is right. Mishpat is a framework of how the Most High is going to work with humanity. In context, this is talking about Sodom and Gomorrah, okay? And prior to him going there, what he wanted to do was he wanted to examine. And he wanted to get a witness. So he sends two of his Malaks there to find out, to discover, to uncover what is really going on. Because you need two witnesses. That's what you need. You need two witnesses in order to establish a fact, okay, of crime. I know you heard me earlier this week talk about the zero witness clause, and I'm going to share with you and explain it more in detail, because sometimes I get a little carried away and I don't explain everything thoroughly. This is one of those acts. This is the second time I've done this. I did it about a couple months ago when I talked about the word Adonai. I didn't fully extend the meaning. I just said a statement, but I didn't fully give context to it. And I don't think that's fair to you, because I don't want to confuse you, okay? But we're going to look at the two witness clause. We're going to look at the one witness clause. So here, our father Abraham, okay, which you and I are cut from his rock, is asking Yah, saying, hey, as far be it from you to treat the righteous like you're going to do the wicked. So what judgment has to do with is these two groups of people, the righteous and the wicked. That's the only two people he's dealing with. There is no in between, okay? So this idea of examination is something we're going to look at. So we ask ourselves, what is ma mishpat? Because that's what ma means. What is judgment? What is it? Where does it come from? What are the meanings? And within the Hebrew language, what we're going to have is we're going to have several different meanings of the same word, okay? The Hebraic understanding, there's three different words that are being used for judgment, okay? And they all function a little differently. They all still mean the same thing, to judge and to bring judgment, but they're functioning differently, okay? So the first word that I want to go over is called Dan, okay, which a lot of people say in English, Dan, which is one of the names of the sons of the tribes of Israel, okay? And he's one, and it means he judge, right? That's what it means. The next one is called Palal, okay? And this is where a lot of people may get that, the idea of, someone doing some work, okay? Because this stem has to do with work, okay? W-O-R-K, okay? It has to do with interceding. It has to do with a lot of other things. And of course, shafat, which has to do with shafatim, which is judgment, okay? So a shafat is a judge too, okay? So these are the different words that are used. And so let's go over each and every last one of them so we can fully understand what's being spoken here. So the word don, of course, means to rule. And someone who's ruling is a ruler, okay? And what they're ruling over is what we will call quarrel or an argument or contention, some type of disagreement. And so, when we look at this word, it has two letters in it, okay? The first letter, part of the root, and this is just a vowel, so we'll just get rid of that. That's just there in order to say the name, okay? So we've got two letters. This first letter is a dalet, okay, in Hebrew. And somebody tell me, what does a dalet mean?
Door.
The door, okay? And what does a door do?
Opens.
It opens, and what else does it do?
It closes. It allows
It
you
closes. Yes, it opens and it closes, okay? So with that opening and that closing is what you would call movement, okay? So there's movement, okay? That's what that does. This letter over here in Hebrew, the letter N is called a nun, okay? Okay, noon or none, okay? And what does this represent in Hebrew, if you can remember?
Seed.
It's a seed. Okay. It's a seed. Okay. And a seed is there to plant and to grow. Okay. That's what it does. And it also means when it grows, it means that it's continuing. So there's always this continuation. Okay. So there's continuing, right? That's what it means. So it's literally but also a seed has what you will call, it brings forth life. That's what it is. Okay. So just off the name alone, from the Hebraic perspective and Hebraic understanding, it means the door of life. That's what it means. Okay. And you say, well, how does that connect to this idea of, ruling and being a ruler and quarreling and arguing and disagreements and contention? How does that happen? Well, the door of life has this idea of restoration. Okay. That's what it has, the idea of restoration. The restoration is that a judge is someone who is restoring life. They restore life. That's their job. Their job is to restore life to the people. Their job is to restore life to the situation. A situation that's going bad, that's dying, okay, it doesn't have no hope. There has to be someone there to rule over these things in order to bring about that which is pleasant and that which is righteous, right, to the people, so they can have a life of righteousness. Okay. And it also too can mean one who a deliverer, one who is able to restore life to his people. When there's a lot of arguments and there's a lot of contention and there's a lot of fights and there's a lot of anger and a lot of hostility, there has to be someone that can bring life back to the situation. Quarreling, arguments, and fighting and disagreements, these things bring about death. They do. Okay, death to relationships, death to joy, death to everything. So this idea of judgment has to do with restoring life. So now in context, when we looked at what Abraham said to Yahweh about, far be it from you to judge the righteous with the wicked, because judgment is coming, okay? And it's coming for the purpose in order to restore, right? It's restoring, but that's not the word that was used there. Don wasn't used there to restore. So Don here is more specifically talking about situations that can be resolved, okay? That can be resolved in families, okay? Like in the family, the word Don, here, let me show you. Let me take it back a little bit so I can bring it back. Let me see if I could bring it. If I put an A on this and I change this to O and I put an A here and I put an I here, that's Adonai, okay? That means the master, okay? If I put Adon, same letters in here, this one and this one, okay? And I put this Aleph on the front, Adon is a Lord and it's a master. This is what Sarah called her husband. Okay. So often, our sisters are occult. They get offended when a man says that he needs to be the ruler, and you ask your wife, or you ask a woman that you are over to call you her master. She don't want to call you her master. But the fact of the matter is that you are an Adon. You are a ruler, and you are there to rule, to stop the quarrel in the home. You're supposed to go ahead and mitigate these types of actions. Okay. So our sisters, our women, should understand that an Adon is not just I'm mastering and ruling just over you. I'm ruling over the home to prevent this. Oh my goodness, I got Jehovah's Witnesses coming to my front door. Oh, I'm teaching right now. Can't stop. Qua, you got to get the door. So what I'm saying is, if we understand Yahweh's order, okay, and we understand what an Adon is, it's just a strong ruler, to rule the home against quarrel. Okay. Just like that name, Adonai. That's called the master of masters. That's what his name means. Okay. You see, then you got one from Adon that you call Adoni. That means my master. See? So when you and I embrace this idea of a rulership and we understand what it means and how we're supposed to restore life and restore joy and restore righteousness to the home, then I don't think our sisters would have a problem with a man who's able and capable of doing this to be called the master and the ruler. Okay. The next one is called Palal. Palal, again, is this one has the action of pleading. Okay. So this aspect is about pleading for judgment. What do you mean? It means to intercede. Okay. I want you to know that that word Palal means to speak to authority. Okay. That's what it means. Okay. So when I say speak, I say speak right here. In the Hebrew language, the letters for the word Palal is a pei and a lamed. So when I say speak, what letter am I referring to?
The pay.
The pei. Why am I referring to the pei?
The open mouth.
Because it has to do with the mouth, and the mouth is the one that opens to speak. Okay, good job. Authority. What letter?
Lamed.
Lamed. Why?
That
Because it's a
represents-
staff that leads. Okay, and it's authority. The one who holds the staff is the one in authority. Okay, so our pleading, because that's what we're doing, we're speaking to authority. When you're pleading and you're interceding for someone, you're pleading on their behalf. You can either on your own behalf or on behalf of someone else. And you're asking for the authority to make a decision. That's what you're pleading for in any given situation or circumstance. That decision is based on this word called incision, a medical term. Okay, decision means incision. That means that you're asking the authority to cut deep down and open it up all the way to see the end. I'm asking you to cut open this situation so we can finally get our answer. That's what we want. That's what you seek and you plead for. You don't plead just to be pleading. You're pleading for an answer. So this idea here is to seek a plea. You're pleading and you're asking the authority to give an answer in a situation by making a decision. So look and examine so carefully that you make an incision into it so we can finally get to the conclusion. So when something's going not so right in our lives, often Yahweh gets on us because we're looking to other people to answer these things that they can't. You have someone in your life you deeply care about and you love that's having problems, okay, outside of your home or even inside of your home. Don't you feel like you can't go and intercede on their behalf? You can. You sure can. Here's an example. When Raquel or Rivka couldn't have a child, who interceded for her?
Her husband did.
Her husband. Husband had did an intercession. He was different, and that husband is Yitzchak. Yitzchak was different than Yaakov. When Raquel couldn't have a child, Yaakov told her, "That's not my problem, and my Elohim." You see, he didn't intercede, but Yitzchak did. You see, you can intercede. You can definitely intercede. And that right there is asking Yah the authority for what? For judgment. In any given situation, you can ask Yah for Palal. Okay, so you got Don, you got Palal, and finally, you and I are going to have Shaphat. Okay. Shaphat is to judge as well. The action is to judge. So in this judgment, there literally isn't no interceding. Our father Abraham, listen. In that text, he says, are you not the judge? Are you not the shaphat or the judge, the one who judged? And you won't judge the righteous with the wicked. Okay. So he's saying that Yah is going to judge. He wasn't doing a palal there. He wasn't asking, let me intercede for the wicked. Okay. There's no listen to me. You need to hear what I'm about to tell you. This is mind blowing, but it's the truth. There is a clear distinction between the righteous and the wicked. Okay. And there's the people that love Yah and the people that hate him. Okay. The people that want to continue to hate him. All right. They're the ones who have to make the decision for themselves. Okay. You cannot listen to what I'm trying to explain. You and I cannot intercede for the wicked. You cannot intercede for the wicked, and I will definitely prove that. Okay. Shaphat means responsibility. There is a responsibility of this judge. This judge's responsibility is to make decisions and take the appropriate action and to rule over disputes in cases of what? Of contention, but also too of wrongdoing. Okay. And there has to be something inside of the rulership of this judge that's vital. It's vital to everything, to the existence of a community, existence of a family, existence of the nation, and what it has to do with is the structure in which this judgment is founded upon. Okay. First and foremost, it has to be founded on authority. Okay. So what Yah has done is in his kingdom, he has set up authority. Okay. I don't have the home on here because we've already talked about the home. Okay. The home is where it begins. Okay. But overall, the total rulership and authority of the kingdom doesn't necessarily mean that you and I could take what we do in our home and apply it. And that would be the, that's not the authority of the community. That's not the authority of the community. Yah did not say, look to their homes in order to figure out what decisions need to be made in certain circumstances. What I need you to do is I need you to set up the individuals that I tell you to set up. Okay. He mentions to us several individuals in certain offices. Okay. The offices that are mentioned in our Torah portion about Shaftim is the Melech, is the king, is the Kohanim, is the Zanakim, the leaders, is the Shofatim, the judges, and the Shotarim, which are the officers. Our Torah portion began opening up talking about, I need you to appoint, I need you to give. What? The Shaftim and the Shotarim. He begins by talking about them first. And after he starts talking about them, then he talks about one judge in the days that they would have judges, which you find in our in the Tanakh. You will find a series of writings talking about the judges and who were ruling in that time. And guess what? A judge could be a male or a female, whoever Yah decided to use. Somebody tell me the name of the woman judge, the female judge. What was her name?
Deborah.
Her name was Deborah. And what's so special about her name? Somebody tell me, what does her name mean? Come on, Quack, get in there, jump in. What is it? What does Devorah mean?
I think it means words, and it means
And it means
bees.
words and bees.
Bees, yes. Like the words go out like bees.
They
from the
go out
hive.
like bees, and the bees are BEES. Okay, the bzzz. Okay, that's what Devorah means. Why would this be important? Somebody tell me about bees. What do you know about bees?
They're orderly.
They're orderly, and they have a what? Do they have a king or do they have a queen?
They have a queen.
They have a queen, and at that moment, that judge, the shafat that was ruling on Yahweh's behalf, her name was Devorah. She was the queen in a sense, okay, just by her name, okay. And bees are very organized. They're organized, and they have a great deal of structure. You understand? So structure and organization is part of our nation, okay? And so Yah says after a certain amount of time that you had judges and you have, in your communities, but also too, you're going to have a one judge that are at the place that I told you, and then you're going to have the Kohanim. And then over time, you guys are not going to have these judges anymore. What you're going to have is you decide that you want to have a king. Somebody tell me what you know about the king from your Torah portion this week. What does he say about this king?
He has to be of your kin.
He has to be chosen by who?
Chosen by Yahweh.
He has to be chosen by Yahweh. And he has to be from his brothers. And it said, lo, meaning never, absolutely never, from a foreigner or a stranger. Meaning that no foreigner, no stranger is to ever usurp authority over any sons of Israel, period. In any setting. You understand? They are not to have authority over any of Yah's sons, okay? That's what he says, okay? So the order in the organization is this king has to be chosen from the brothers. Tell me about the Torah that has to do with the king. What did you read this week that had to do with the king, about what there was a Mishpot, a ruling that he had to follow. What was the ruling about the Torah? Raised hand, Qua, go ahead.
He had to read the Torah every day.
You had to read it. Tell me something else about it. Don't forget, he had to write it.
Oh yes, he had to write it.
He had to write a copy called
He had to have his own copy. Yeah, his own copy and then read it every day.
Right. The Jewish people have what they call a Mishnah, okay, or Mishneh. And a Mishneh means a copy. That's what it means. It means a second copy, okay, right? But they had to write that copy in front of the Kohanim, not one, a group of them. Somebody tell me, why did they have to have it? Why did this king have to have that copy written in front of the group over here? Why?
Verification.
Clarification. They had to make sure that it was written according to what they had already had a copy of. They had to make sure that he didn't have any errors in it. And he had to read it, and it had to be the exact same words. You understand? So he had to have a copy written, and he had to also look at the commitment. He had to read it every single day. Okay. And tell me the 3 things that he wasn't able to get that he should not multiply to himself. Or actually, it's 4. Where are the 4 things?
Wives.
Wives. Somebody said we should go put the wives first. Okay. What's next?
Houses.
Houses?
No, horses. I'm sorry.
Horses. Yeah. Horses. Susim. And what else?
Money.
Okay. Gold. That's silver. And that's the gold. Okay. These things. Wealth. Okay. So, and he told him never to go back to what land? What land are you never
Mizraim.
supposed to go get those horses from?
Egypt.
Mizraim.
Mizraim, why? Why did Yah said you can't go back to Mizraim? Well, I just gave you the answer. Yah told Israel, you are never to go back that way to the land of Mizraim ever again.
May I ask
Okay.
a question?
Yes,
What are these four things he's not supposed to have or supposed to have? What was the,
he is not supposed to multiply. Okay, he is not supposed to multiply.
okay,
And there's a reason why.
okay.
Somebody tell me, why does Yah not want this man to multiply the wives?
Because they were marrying, it distracts from ruling the Torah, ruling the land.
Okay, but more
Ruling the people.
specifically, what did the Torah say about these wives? What would they do?
They would cause him to go astray.
Yes, they would
Worship
cause him
other
to go
gods.
astray. What with the gold and the horses would cause him to go back to the places he don't supposed to? And secondly, what is the gold and the silver? Why not multiply the gold and the silver unto yourself? Why? What was that supposed to do?
Clouds your judgment.
A cloud's judgment is because somebody can offer that to you, right? And check this out. Also, too, what I found in reading the text was it said that you would be able to become room, meaning that you would be lifted. It would cause you to be lifted, not only above your brothers, but also too, it would remove you from your brothers. So it's not just being above your brothers, it's being from your brothers. There's different, what you would call prepositions, okay, in terms of position. Him being king alone is a position that's exalted, okay? But even in this exalted position, Yah still wanted them to be humble. Because if they got too lifted up, they would not be able to hear and understand and rule from a place on the same level of what their brothers' needs were. They're too, what you would call too gaudy. They're too exalted. And when he said from your brothers, okay, the Torah is supposed to keep us on this on the same level, not in terms of position. Okay, it's not the positions. The positions are going to be different, but in terms of a level of equality, we may not be on the same position, but when it comes to the level of the Torah, we all experience and have the same equality in Yah's eyes. Okay. And we still supposed to receive the same fairness. They're not supposed to be giving any extra favor because you're the king. You're supposed to be able to cross over and do what you want to do. Nobody's supposed to say nothing to you, that whole thing. And the people can't see that. You understand what I'm saying? They got to know that the king that's over us, okay, that's above us, is the king who walks among us. He's not above us. He's among us. He walks among us. He doesn't rule from a high lifted position of just sitting on the throne only. He actually comes and he walks among the people. He understands what the needs are. He sees what they're going through. He understands what it is. You understand? That's why he mentions this king. This king has to be chosen from Yah. Okay? That's what has to happen. So Yah knew that they would want a king, and Yah is still the king. But he says the people are going to ask, we want a king like the nations around us. They want someone to walk among them and to, show them off and to be like the nations in that way. And Yah says, if you do decide that you want one, it has to be somebody that I chose. So who did Yah choose as a king for Israel? Who is
Dawid.
the king? He chose Dawid, and he chose his family. Okay, that's who he chose. The Kohanim. What do we know about the Kohanim? There's a judgment called a Mishpot for the Kohanim. There's a Mishpot. There's a ruling. The ruling had to do with inheritance. What is their inheritance? What is their inheritance?
Yeah.
Yah is their inheritance. In the Hebrew text, it says lo, meaning you shall never, absolutely never, ever give them land, ever, except for that which they do their planting, but they don't have no inheritance in land. Okay, so that's a ruling. That's a mishpat. That's one of Yah's rulings. Another ruling that he says is why they're there with you. They're supposed to get the first fruits of what? What are some of the things that he said you need the first fruit of?
Their offering.
I want your wine. I want your of your oxen. I want it of your sheep. I want it of your wine. I want it of your fruit. I want it of your oil, your olive oil. Okay, that's what I want. I want it of your grain. This is a ruling. That's a mishpat. You see, so Yah's mishpat is not just dealing with how to handle conduct and behavior. It's what Yah's ruling is in order to feed his chosen ones that he chose to stand before him and do the work. Okay. Somebody tell me about the Zakanim, the Zakanim are the bearded ones. I use these pictures here to represent how Yah sees them. I chose the lion for the king because Yahweh told them in Genesis chapter number 49, their father Yaakov told him what it was going to be, that Judah will be like a lion. Okay, 49. Here is a ram. A ram is a leader of the what? Of the sheep. Okay, so leaders were chosen too. And every city had elders. Okay, in whatever respective tribe that they were from. So every tribe had leaders, whether it's Yehuda, whether it's Reuven, Shimon, wherever they went. Okay, Shaftarim are the officers. Okay, they're the ones who's supposed to do the investigations, to find out things. They're also the military officers. So they're not just officers there, they're military officers as well when they go to war and stuff like that. And of course, the judges are those who are within inside your gates as well, who are supposed to execute the rulings that Yahweh has said. That's the structure. Okay. And within this structure, there has to be what you would call Zedek. What is Zedek? Somebody tell me.
Righteousness.
It's righteousness. They have to rule in righteousness. Every last one of these offices has to rule in the highest level of righteousness. And somebody tell me, what does righteousness mean besides the abstract thought of, oh, I'm righteous? What does it mean?
I think it says in Deuteronomy 5:26, and it will be our righteousness if we keep these commands or these commandments. So I think it's keeping the commandments.
Mm-hmm. But that is guarding the commandments. Keeping means shamar, means to guard, but also righteousness is the idea of pursuing. I want you to always remember about that pursuing, chasing after. Pursuing means persecution. Okay. It means like, I'm after you. I'm pursuing righteousness. I'm pursuing, listen, our righteousness is one who's actively in pursuit of that which is right. When Yah has put these, and I'm going to go back here, when Yah put this office and the structure together, their purpose of even being there is to prosecute that which is not righteous. They're not there for fun. Go ahead, Rivkwa.
I was just thinking that when we're pursuing righteousness, it's a totally different concept to us now. It's like when we're pursuing righteousness, we're watching what we eat, what comes in and out of our gates, in our home, in our eyes. Our pursuit of righteousness is completely different than it was when we were, in Christianity, because holiness, like we said, we don't use that word anymore. We use kodesh, or set apart. So our pursuit of righteousness has a whole different meaning now.
It does. It's mean you're actively in pursuit, and in pursuit means that you're ready to prosecute, to pursue. Okay. So we don't let anybody just do something without going after it and saying, no, you don't just let it go. Righteousness doesn't mean that you see something and let it go. Righteousness means that you're always pursuing to do that which is right and make sure that something is fair and that it's just, and that you deal with disputes and you deal with wrongdoings. Okay? Righteousness is on a whole nother level. It's not just abstract. And this is the reason why Yah said, I need you to appoint judges and officers in all your sha'areka, your gates. There for that purpose, there is not to stand there and just look around and have the right outfit on. Their job is to literally prosecute that which is wrong so they can bring about what Yah's righteousness is and his rulings in his community, in his nation. It has to be established. Why? Because righteousness and justice are the foundation of Yahweh's throne. Grace and truth attend him. This is what it is. And righteousness has to be the pursuit of what? Of mishpat. Justice there is mishpat, of judgment. That's the foundation. Yah's throne was established upon righteousness, pursuit of what? Of rulings that which is right, to bring a person to justice. There has to be a desire for justice and judgment. We don't look at judgment the way that we ought to look at it. We've been taught that you shall not judge. Judge ye not, for you don't want to be judged. New Testament. Our whole life we've been told don't judge anybody. That's not Yahweh's way. Listen what Dawid said. Dawid said the fear of Yahweh is clean, enduring forever. The mishpatim, that is the judgments of Yahweh, are true. They're righteous altogether. Listen, they are more desirable than gold, much fine gold, and also sweeter than honey and the drippings from the honeycomb. Why did he say that they're more desirable than gold? Because he understood it, because he was the king of Israel and he wrote a copy of the Torah. And he understood that it doesn't, Yah has said that I don't want you to multiply gold and silver to yourself. What I need you to understand is this mishpatim. And if you look in the book of Tehillim, which is Psalms 119, it tells you all the time that Dawid says, teach me your rulings, teach me your mishpatim. We haven't learned how to desire mishpatim. We've been told, don't put your hands on it. We've been told not to pursue it. If he says that it's more desirable than gold and silver, what do people do for gold and silver and fine gold? They send people to other countries to go get it. They mine for it. They work for it. They pursue it. They chase it. We have to change our desire. Shaptim and mishpatim and judgment has to do with consulting. There's counsel in the mishpatim. There's counsel and judgment through them. Through what? It's the same context. He's still talking about mishpatim. Through your mishpatim, your servant is warned. I'm counseled. You give me etzim, you talk to me, you're warning me, you're telling me what it is. And all you're asking me to do is obey them, because in there's great reward. That's where it's at. The Torah tells us this. In our Torah portion this week, it told us that, listen, he says, act according to whatever they teach you. Who? The Lavaim, or the Kohanim, excuse me. And the decisions they give you, don't turn aside from what they tell you, to the right or to the left. Anyone who shows contempt for the judge or for the priest who stands ministering there to Yahweh is to be put to death. This is the reason why you should take caution when you're getting the judgment of Yahweh, because I'm going to warn you about what I'm going to do. You must purge this evil from Israel, and all the people will hear and be afraid and will not be contemptuous again. Listen, that word contemptuous right there is not even the proper word. It's actually being presumptuous. Contempt means I got hatred, disdain. I don't have any respect. No, it's different. I didn't change the word. I left it there on purpose. So I can show you, like, even in English, they don't give you the full understanding. How many of you guys like soup? How many of you like soup?
I like soup.
You like soup? What does it take to make some soup? What do you got to do?
Water,
Natural ingredients.
You bring it to a what? What is it? In order for the soup to get the flavor out of the natural ingredients, Gil, what do you got to do?
The ingredients you gotta saute and season.
Yeah, you throw all that in there. You throw your seasoning, all that. Do you just leave it on low, or what do you do? Do you bring it to a boil to get the flavor out of it? What do you do?
the latter, you bring it to a boil.
You bring it to a boil, then you turn. So you got to turn the what up?
The heat.
You got to turn the heat up in order to get your soup, right? And then after you turn, you get the flavor, and it's not all watery anymore, and the flavors are there. You add more spices and taste it and everything. You turn the heat down, but it's still simmering. Right? You understand? I'm going to tell you about some soup in your Torah portion that has to do with judgment. I don't know if you're in my Hebrew class, I've been telling you that the Hebrew language is about a family, right? All these letters, it's a family of letters. The family, the Aleph, they got sons and daughters. You got the Bet, the Gimel, the Dalet, the Hey, the Wad, the Zayin, the Ket, the Tet, the Yod, the Mim, the Nun, the Samak, Ayin, Pei, the Zadi, Kof, Resh, and Ta. You got the whole 22 families in there of letters, and they come together and they make a family. So two letters would get together and make a marriage, and then they had kids by adding another letter. Okay, this family, the family of Zod. Okay, I made it up. It's the family of Zod. That's a real name, Zod. It's the parents, meaning the Zayin and the Dalet. They came together and they had 3 children. And then they said, you know what? We got 3 kids. Let's adopt another child. This in particular family I'm going to tell you about will get you killed. This family is in the Torah portion. It's all through the Torah portion this week. This word is all through the Torah portion this week. Okay, so judgment is based around this family. The first child in the Hebrew, and this is true, I'm not making this up. The first child's name is called Azad. Okay, that's his name. And Azad means to depart. Okay, but the family here, Zad, means to boil. That's what it means. It means to boil. Okay, when something's boiling and it gets too hot, it starts departing from the what? The pot. It starts departing. Okay, then you turn it down and it ends up simmering and it becomes, a still soup, but now you start to stew it, right? This next one right here, this word here, Zod and Zod, or Zod and Zid, these in particular ones, in my opinion, are twins because their meaning is exactly the same. They mean boil. So they still hold the same characteristics as their mother and their father, the Zayin and the Dalet. Here it is, the Zayin and the Dalet, the Zayin and the Dalet. Okay, but the Zod has the Y in the middle. That's the O. Okay, should have wrote it this way. Okay, so I'm just going to put Z-O-D. Okay, in Hebrew, that O right there is represented by this letter called the Wa. Okay, the colon Wa, and the other one is called Zid. That I right here is represented by what they would call a Yod. So one's a Yod, one's a Wa. But they still got the Zadi and the Dalet as their parents, okay? But the name of the child is Zod, another one Zid. The adopted one, so those are both to boil. They're boiling because they're what? Because they're hot, okay? They're still hot. This one right here, Nazad, this one in particular, adopted root, name Azad, I call words children because that's exactly what they are. It's a child root. This one is called stew. That one means to stew. So it still shares the same type of deal, the boiling, but now this is a slow boil. These are fast and hot-headed, okay? This family is being used in the Torah portion because it's this type of attitude that got people killed in the Torah portion. And let's read about it, okay? So I want you to remember this family. I want you to remember the family of Zod, like you remember the Bush family or the Clintons and the Obamas and all these people. This is a family you need to remember because you don't need to be like this. And if you have any of the behaviors or conduct of this in particular family, you're going to die. Judgment is for you because Yah is trying to get rid of these characteristics and these behavior types of this family in his people. And let me prove it. The understanding is this. He says that David is saying here, again, we're still in Tehillim 19, okay? That who can discern unintentional sins and cleanse me from hidden faults? Still in context, talking about this judgment. He's still talking about the same thing. The discernment of unintentional sins is this. The unintentional sin is the person who's going astray. That's the unintentional. That means that it was a mistake. That's unintentional. Often we go astray. And he's asking Yah to cleanse me from what? My secret faults. All of us have secret faults. And we have things about us that need to be brought out. And the only way that it can come out is through the Mishpatim. The Mishpatim, which are the rulings of Yahweh, are the only things that are going to tell you how to deal with that which is unintentional. It's going to bring you into the right place you need to go. It's going to actually start sharing you with your secrets. This is what he's saying to us, okay? So how can you understand that? You can only understand unintentional sins through the mishpat and the judgments of Yah, the rulings of Yah. It's very powerful, okay? He wants us to consider, okay? To always meditate. Why? Meditate upon what? He's still talking about the Mishpatim. That's what he's talking about. He says, listen, also keep your servant from presumptuous. Remember, I just told you, I said, I'm going to tell you about that family of Zod. This is there right here, them. That word right there is Zod. Presumption in Hebrew is called Zod. That's what it's called. So that they won't control me. Yah doesn't want you to be controlled by the family of these letters or this in particular family. That family is the one who's always hot. They're the ones who's always boiling. They're always going beyond the boundaries. They're always going beyond their boundaries. That's why David said, keep me from unintentional, keep me from going astray, because Yah has set boundaries. You understand? So when Yah has set these boundaries, what could get a person off of these boundaries? Well, when you get hot and you get boiled and you're stewing and you're upset all the time, stew don't mean just eating a nice stew. Stew means you could be sitting there meditating on things that are wrong and cause you to be angry. And then that anger will then end up turning into violence. That anger ends up turning into dispute. That anger will eventually turn into an argument. I didn't spell that right. That anger is going to be with that discontentment. You understand? That's what anger happens. So if you and I, he says, I got to get this out of you because you will presume upon me. You'll go beyond what I said. You'll boil over the boundaries. You see, that's what's going to happen. The presumptuous sins will cause a person to be controlled by them, and then you won't be blameless. So David is asking Yah to allow him, right, to see this. And the only way you can see it is you have to meditate upon it. You got to meditate. Where he says, listen, may the words of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart, which is my mind, be acceptable in your presence, my Yahweh, my rock and my redeemer, the one who's constantly redeeming, not just redeemer, the one who's always redeeming me. Yah is constantly redeeming Israel. Why or how? Through the Mishpatim. You understand? So if you and I don't get rid of the anger issues and the behaviors from the family of Zod, you and I are going to be living in a way that's presumptuous. And that's what's going to control us. And then that's what's going to bring us to a point of judgment. And then sometimes when you do something, you won't be able to get out of it. You'll go. Have you noticed sometimes people do things and then they want to try to correct it and it's like too late and there's no remedy for what they've done? Sometimes you can go too far. Sometimes you can say something that's so painful and so hurtful to somebody that you can never take those words back. You can never take them back. We're not in Christianity anymore. We got to be careful what we say. We got to be careful how we feel. The Mishpot can correct those things. But what I also found interesting in the Torah about this week was that judgment is actually measurable. It's measurable. And I found that when he says, if in the land of Yahweh your Elohim is giving you, you are to possess a murderer victim is found lying in the countryside. And I said, well, okay, what is this about? What does this have to do with judgment? And the perpetrator of the murder is not known. When your leaders and your judges are to go out and measure the distance between it and the surrounding town. Went right over my head at first until I thought about it. This number right here is not an if, it's a when. This is wrong. It's not an if. I leave it there on purpose to let you know that can change. Well, it's if, it's not if, it's when. If it's a when, it means that it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. It's not an if, it's when it's going to happen. People are going to show up dead, laying out in the countryside. But Yah says, I want you to measure the distance. I said, what does that mean? Measure the distance. Why measure the distance? Because he's letting us know that judgment is measurable. And I want to explain that to you. It's measurable. Let me show you how it's measurable. Before we go into it, I want you to remember that family of Zod. I want you to remember Zid. I want you to remember Zod. I want you to remember Azad or Azan. I want you to remember. I want you to remember not Azan. I want you to remember this family because this is a bunch of hotheads right here. Okay. They're here. They're in this. There are two things that can be measured in judgment in Mishpatim. The Creator has shown to us this week. And it's measurable. There's one that's measurable for mercy, and the other one is no pity whatsoever. Judgment can receive mercy in judgment, but also too, in judgment, there's no mercy and there's no pity for certain people. Let's deal with the mercy part. Yahweh says, when Yahweh your Elohim cuts off the nations whose land Yahweh your Elohim is giving you, and you take their place and you settle in their cities and houses, you are to set aside 3 cities for yourself, okay, or yourselves in the land that Yahweh your Elohim is giving you to possess. Divide the territory of your land, which Yahweh your Elohim is having you inherit, into 3 parts, and prepare the roads so that any killer may flee to these cities. Okay. When we first look at this, we were like, any killer? Well, it's a type of killer. It's not any killer. It's like a killer. What kind of killer? A killer that has done something on an accident. Okay. But in judgment, in the measuring of this, you have to plan. Yah says, I need you to plan and prepare the roads for these 3 cities, for these 3 parts. I want to be able to provide, listen carefully, I want to be able to provide a place for the innocent. I don't want the innocent's bloodshed. Because they're a killer, you can have a killer who's innocent. We never thought about that. We thought killer's a killer and a killer is always going to be guilty. No, there are people who accidentally do things. The person who's innocent is the one who made a mistake. This is for the person who makes a mistake, who accidentally killed his brother. I almost killed my friend one time. I was on a boat. We were going down this strait, and we threw out the anchor, and we forgot about it. And then I took off in the boat and started driving really fast, and was just driving. And I heard someone was like, "Man, you hear that sound?" And we stopped the boat. It's like, do you hear that? I thought something was wrong with the boat. As soon as I stopped the boat, the anchor flew up out of the water and flew right past my friend's head and landed not even 6 to 8 inches away from his arm on the side of the boat. Could have took his head off, could have took his arm off, I didn't intend on murdering him or killing him. It can happen. Mistakes happen. But even if that happened out on the water like that, do you know what his family would have done? They want to hold me responsible. And it would have been, then I would have been brought into question. Did he ever hate him? Did they ever have any arguments? Did they ever? No, they were best friends. So then that could be like, okay, they investigated it. Okay. So David didn't hate him. So they were best friends. So why did it happen? It was an accident. But even so, does that change the fact that they lost their brother or their cousin or whoever? No, there's still that anger. And Yah knows that anger that a human being gets when they lose someone that they love. But here Yah is saying in judgment, there's planning for the innocent. There still has to be judgment, even for the innocent. They have to have a place to go. And so I want to make sure that they're protected. Okay, so check that out. And it has to do with calculation. So measurement, of course, is not just in planning, but it's in calculating. Calculate what? I need you to calculate, right? Because I'm going to have some compassion. And here's my compassion. The killer, listen to this, the killer who will live if he flees, there is someone who has, the killer who will live if he flees, there is someone who has killed his fellow member of the community by mistake, who did not hate him in the past. Okay. An example would be if a man goes into a forest with his neighbor to cut wood and takes a stroke with an axe to fell a tree, meaning to cut a tree down, but the head of the axe flies off the handle, hits the neighbor and kills him, just like my boat situation. Then he is to flee to one of these cities, one of the 3 cities, and live there. Okay. Otherwise, the next of kin, the avenger, okay, which is what they call a goel, avenger of blood, in the heat of his anger may pursue the killer, overtake him because the distance to the city of refuge is long, and strike him dead, even though he didn't deserve to die, inasmuch he hadn't hated him in the past. This is why I'm ordering you to set aside for yourselves 3 cities. I bring this point out simply because in the judgment of Yah, you see compassion. The measurement of the distance has to be short. If it's too long, the killer who's innocent, who did this on a mistake, doesn't have enough time to get to the cities. So you can see Yah's compassion and his mercy. And that's why I told you to prepare those roads, because if the road is too long and the cities are too far, the anger the heat of this anger is going to pursue this guy, and he's going to get to him before he can get to the city. He won't have enough time. This is very important for us to understand. So what Yah has done is, listen, Yah is telling us that measurement and judgment is important. Because why? If it's too long for you, you won't have enough time. You will get killed. How does this relate to what we're talking about? How does it relate to judgment? There is a time that Yah is going to judge the world. And what he's saying is, I'm not going to give you too short of a time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you enough time. It's not only being too long, but it can also be too short. Short in distance, but long in distance, right? If it's too long in distance, you don't have no time. If it's short in distance, you got time. But I'll take time and say, if I want to give you enough time, if I give you short time, then you don't have enough time. To what? To get to where you need to go, to a place of refuge. David talks about Yah all the time in the Psalms. And he says this all the time. If you read your Psalms this week, it told you that Yah is a refuge. And what he has done is he's given us enough time to get into him, the refuge of Yahweh, before the judgment, before the heat of his anger comes and destroys us. Do you understand? Do you see this? So judgment is measurable. You understand? And where there's more examples to this, it's not just this example here. There's more examples. There's an example here that says, listen to this, that he wanted them to think ahead. Look at this, think ahead. There's part of our Torah portion where Moshe told the sons of Israel, he says, listen, when you advance onto a town to attack it, first offer it terms of peace, meaning shalom. That's the first thing. Shalom rashon. That's the first thing I want you to do, is offer them peace. If it accepts the terms for peace and it opens the gates to you, the Sha'adraka, then all the people there are to be put to forced labor and work. At least they get to stay alive. What is Yah trying to tell us? That when you think about it, and when you take time and you think ahead, Yah is telling you and I through this Torah portion, because you and I are not the people that are going to a city to go to war. But why is it written for us? He's letting you know in advance. Oh, you better hear what he's saying today. I'm going to let you know in advance that I'm going to come and I'm going to offer you terms of peace. I'm offering you terms of peace before I get there, before I bring the judgment upon you. That's measurement. You understand? I'm offering you this, but in advance, I'm giving you enough time to accept my terms. If you accept my terms, I'll give you shalom. If you don't accept my terms, you won't get any shalom. You won't. That's what mercy is for. So they'll get the mercy if they what? If they accept the terms. But that's only given in advance. After it's been proclaimed that we're going to war, and I gave you an offer and you decided not to take it, you don't get anything. Now we're going to deal with this idea of no pity, which is measurable as well. There will be no escape. I want to be clear today in my teaching. There will be no escape for certain people. Here it is. However, if someone hates his fellow member of the community, going back to the person who kills on an accident versus the person who does kill on purpose, now we're talking about the person who hates his fellow member and lies in wait for him and attacks him and strikes him with a death blow. And then he flees into one of these cities like he's going to receive some mercy and some grace. Then the leaders, the Zakanim of his own town are to send and bring him back from there and hand him over to the next kin of avenger for those who will take his life. And he's to be put to death on the spot. You are not to pity him. You are not to show any pity to this individual. Rather, you are to put an end to the shedding of innocent blood in Israel. Then things will go well with you. There's no pity in judgment for the people who are not innocent. If you're guilty, you receive no pity. Liars are not going to receive any pity. In the Torah portion, you learn that show no pity, life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, and foot for foot. This is what they call measure for measure. And it's dealing with what they call a kamas witness, a hostile witness. In context, in your Torah portion, it talked about you and somebody getting an argument. And they come and they bring a false accusation against you. And they start talking about things that you have done, and they're lying about they're being a unfaithful witness. They're being a Hamas witness. They're violent. I don't know if you remember in the news, they talk about this organization in Israel called Hamas, where they really say Hamas. The real name is Hamas. Hamas means violent. You should know that somebody's a liar. Listen to me carefully. Liars are the people who usually get upset when the truth starts coming out. And they begin to get agitated, and they begin to be violent, and they begin to do all these different types of things. So Yah says, if whatever that person intended to do to you, you're supposed to bring them for the priest before the Most High and examine and give a careful examination, do your research, do your investigation, and find out whether or not they're lying. That's what you need to do. And then we're going to find out. And when we find out, whatever they wanted to do to you is going to be done to them. But a liar is someone who's hostile. Okay, which goes back to the idea of a person who's what? Presumptuous, which comes from that family of Zod, Zid, Zod, and Azan, and Naazan. That's that family. They're the people who go beyond. It's that boiling, it's that anger, that simmering, that stewing. Okay, so, the New Testament told you, oh, don't do that. You can't be an eye for an eye. I know you heard that, but you can't do that. Yah says no pity for that person. Okay, so liars are not they're going to get what they deserve. There's no pity for them. Also, for those who have rejected, there's a rejection. Like we saw earlier about the ones who did, he said, if they accept your peace and you offer them shalom and they get it, hey, you'll make them into servants and you won't, bring any damage to them. Okay. But there's a whole bunch of people right now that are rejecting what Yahweh says. There's a whole bunch of people right now that are very dismissive of what the Creator has said. They don't care what he said. Listen to this. However, if they refuse, talking about the people that you went to go make war with, they refuse to make peace with you, but prefer to make war against you. You are to put it under siege, and when Yahweh your Elohim hands it over to you, you are to put every male to the sword, kill every last one of the males. However, you are to take as booty for you yourself, the women, the little ones, the livestock, and everything in the city, all is spoil. Yes, you will feed on your enemy's spoil, which Yahweh your Elohim has given you. There's no pity for them. You kill them. You see, again, those who are dismissive to the offer and reject Yahweh's offer of peace and shalom, because they refuse to shalom the Yah's offering, and you're dismissive, you don't take into consideration anything that I said, I'm putting you to death. That's the judgment. That's why there's no mercy. You see, so there's terms of mercy and peace and hey, I don't want to destroy you, so let me make my offer to you. You see, so what he's telling the children of Israel is coming from the words of the king. So if the king is telling us to do this, he himself is going to be doing the same. It's his order. But there's absoluteness here. I want you to understand this. There are some demands that are required for the majesty of the King of the universe. And he tells us this. He says, even if pity is shown to the wicked, he still doesn't learn what righteousness is. In the land of uprightness, he will still act wrongly and fail to see the majesty of Yahweh. You cannot show pity to the wicked. There is no pity going to be shown to the wicked. Why? Because Yahweh's throne was established on righteousness and justice, which is Mishpot 10, and his majesty demands that. There can never be any pity shown to a wicked person. Never. Well, you say, well, I thought Ezekiel 18 says that Yah says that the wicked person can turn from their ways at any given moment. Yes, they can, but that's their choice. It's not being forced upon them. The king says, if you are wicked, you got a chance to change. I'll give you the opportunity to turn from your ways and accept what I'm saying. That's your choosing. You saved your own life by thinking about and considering. So this goes back to us, and it goes back to what we're thinking. It goes back to how we see things. It depends on how we feel. If we're going to be presumptuous, if we're going to be from like the family of Zod, or you and I are going to be the people who are hostile like Hamas and be violent. Who are we? In conclusion, on this part of the teaching today, Yahweh loves judgment. He loves Mishpot. It's right there. He loves it, and he will not abandon his faithful. The faithful to what? To what he said. He loves his rulings. They are preserved forever. Who? The faithful. The faithful are the ones who love the judgment as well. You and I need to stop loving that which is wicked and evil, okay, making concession for them as if you and I are going to be the loving people that the New Testament told you. Love your enemies. No, 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 no. I will tell you, my enemy, I will offer you shalom. I'm not offering you love. I'm offering you an opportunity to stay alive. That's what I'm offering. And that's what our king is offering us. That if you and I would be faithful to what he says in his judgments, you and I will be able to stay alive because they will be preserved forever. But the descendants of the wicked will be cut off. Not only the wicked, but them and their descendants will be cut off, period. And that's absolute. So remember, there is no pity for the wicked. And there's only two types of people on the face of this earth. Two. That has been declared to us by our Father, who said to us, what did he say? Avinu, Abraham said something. And he said, Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked. Yah will never treat the righteous and the wicked alike. That's why he's telling us, I will never do that. But if the wicked decides to turn from his ways, I'll spare him, because he thought about it. He considered it. Finally, Shemo, his name. I'm going to take these last few moments to talk to us about his name and the importance of it. I might go a little fast because I spent a lot of time in the judgment in the Mishpatim. Here, Yah told us in our Torah portion that I will raise up for you a prophet like me from among yourselves, meaning Yahweh will raise up a prophet like me. Moshe's talking to them from your own kinsmen, just like the king. I'm going to choose from your own kinsmen. Now I'm going to choose a prophet from your own kinsmen. I'm going to choose your leaders from your own kinsmen. I'm going to choose Shoptim and Shotarim from your own people. You are to pay attention to him. Devarim 18:15. Not the prophet, not a definite article, a prophet. It could be any prophet. Okay. We're going to talk about the petition, the purpose, and the provision. The petition is this, according to what was in the Torah portion. Yisrael made a plea to Yahweh. Moshe reminds them of this plea and said, because plea has to do with judgment. Just as when you were assembled at Korev, the place of the sword, because that's what Korev means, is not just the name of the mountain, it's actually the name of a sword, the definition for a sword. You requested Yahweh, your Elohim. You requested, don't let me hear the voice of Yahweh, my Elohim, anymore. Or let me see this great fire ever again. If I do, I will die. Proper understanding is this. They didn't say, let us just hear his voice anymore. What they were saying is, don't let him add any more words to the words that he just spoke to us. We don't want him to add any more, because if we continue to see this in any more of this fire, this great, that Hagadola Haesh, then we're going to definitely die. That was their plea. They requested for it to have a prophet. They didn't want Yah to speak his words to them anymore. And on that occasion, Yahweh said to me, saying, Moshe, they are right. They're right in what they're saying. They're with the action and the decision I'm going to make is based upon them being right. Because Yah says that they're right. They're going to die. They're going to die. If they heard any more of my words, they're going to die. Why? Because I did not pronounce to them the Mishpatim. I only told them the words of the covenant. I did not tell them the rulings. I didn't mention the rulings to them at that time. They only heard the 10 words. If I would have mentioned the Mishpatim, they would have died. Because my Mishpatim told you never to make an idol. That's the reason why I spared you, because you didn't hear it. It's a good thing you didn't hear what I said. But you and I today don't have that same pleasure, that same opportunity, because we are hearing Yah's Mishpatim. And when we do hear his voice again, if you didn't do what he said, you are going to die. I will raise up a prophet like you from among their kinsmen. I will put my words in his mouth, and he will tell them everything I ordered him. Whoever doesn't listen to my words, which he will speak in my name, my Shemo, will have to account for himself to me. But if a prophet presumptuously, there again, that's that family of Zod, going beyond the borders of what I did not say, speaks a word in my name, which I didn't order him to say, or if he speaks in the name of other gods, then that prophet must die. This is a Mishpatim. This is a ruling. There's a fruit that has a seed in it, okay? The fruit doesn't become a fruit until it grows from the seed. A prophet is one who plants a seed and waits for it to grow so you can see what he said. You see? So what Yah is saying here is, you may be wondering, well, how are we to know if a word has not been spoken by Yahweh? How would I know if this is not Yahweh's word? When a prophet speaks in the name, I want you to understand our teaching is talking about what they would call Shemo. Shem, oh, shame, name. That's what Shem means. O means his. So his name. His name and Shem means what? His character. His character, who he is. So Yah is telling us that if a prophet comes and he speaks in Yahweh's name and the prediction does not come true, that word is not from Yahweh. It's not fulfilled, meaning it doesn't flourish. Then Yahweh did not speak that word. The prophet who said it, he spoke it presumptuously from that family. They went beyond what Yahweh said. They went beyond. They went on their own thing. They departed. Remember the name of the first son, Azan? Remember Azan? They departed. They went from what Yahweh had said to what they believed in their dreams, in their visions. They speaking out of their own head. He said, you have nothing to fear from that person. Nothing from them. Okay? Nothing. If it doesn't come true, you have nothing to be afraid of. They do, but not you. The qualification of this is the name. Why? There's purpose. There's a reason. There's a reason why Yah says, I'm going to put my name on it. Okay. There's a reason why it could be two. It could be for a positive or a negative. There's always two reasons. Okay. Or two sides to a purpose. The purpose is this. They have a whole nother purpose. A person who comes and speaks and say they've spoken in Yahweh's name has a whole nother purpose. Their purpose is this. Yah says, I've heard that these prophets are prophesying lies in my name. Okay. And this is what they're saying. I've had a dream. I had a dream. How long will this go on? Is my word in the hearts of the prophets who are prophesying lies? Who are prophesying deceit from their own minds? With their dreams that they keep telling each other? They hope to cause my people to forget my name. That's the purpose. The purpose of a false prophet is to get you to forget about Yahweh's name. They are trying to get you to depart from the way. They're trying to get you to go astray. But if you know the Mishpatim, as David had spoke about, the Mishpatim will keep you from going err. You're going astray off of the way of the path that Yah has put. The Mishpatim are the paths. Their goal is to get you to forget Yah's name, his Shemo. They don't want you to know the Yohei-Wahei. They don't want you to know that. They don't want you to know what it means. It means Redeemer. It means Savior. It means all those things. If they could get you to change the name, they could get you to change your God, your Elohim, just as their ancestors forgot my name when they worship Baal. That's their goal. That's the purpose. The New Testament that's their objective. Anybody that's still reading the New Testament for the sake of trying to get an understanding about what Yah said is literally a fool. You got to be out of your mind. Number one, because Yah's name is never mentioned, not one time in the New Testament. Zero. So a prophet has to be qualified by using Yahweh's name. But listen to this. But Hananiah, they changed this name to make it Hebrew, answered the Lord. He answered, Lord, many have told me about this man, talking about Paul, how much harm he has done to your people in Yerushalayim. And here he has a warrant from the head Kohanim to arrest everyone who calls on your name. But the Lord said to him, go, because this man is my chosen instrument to carry my name to the Goyim. This is Christ talking to this in particular man that had a dream and a vision. So he's saying that Paul is supposed to carry his name to the Goyim, to the nations, even to their kings and to the sons of Israel as well. I didn't change it to Yisrael, I left it as Israel. Okay. For I myself will show him how much he will have to suffer on account of my name. You see that? It's about his name. All the disciples, the apostles, and the so-called followers and Talmudim of Jesus Christos, known as Jesus Christ, or the Hebrew edition, Yeshua HaMashiach, they're following this. an anonymous book out of the book of Acts. Nobody knows who the writer is. They just named it Lucas. You understand? Go look it up. It's an anonymous book, an anonymous author. That's the objective, to get you off of Yahweh's name. The prophets are going to tell us something. It says that if a prophet has a dream, let him tell it as a dream. But if someone who has my word, should he speak? But someone who has my word should speak my word faithfully. What do chaff and wheat have in common? Asked Yahweh. That word right there, faithfully, is understood in the Hebrew as a meth, meaning in truthfulness and firmness. I spoke to you earlier this week, and I said something on the video, and I looked at the tape, and I said, I didn't explain that properly. I said that you don't need a witness in certain situations. And I think I mixed the ideas between that which is of a false prophet versus somebody coming to you and having an argument with you and bringing a case against you. I want to establish right now the truth of Yah's word. Here's the truth, because I'm going to speak Yah's word faithfully. And if I ever make a mistake, I have enough love in my heart for the Torah and for my brothers and sisters to tell you that I made a mistake. My mistake was this: I didn't explain it properly. I didn't explain to you that there's a private thing that can happen and there's a public thing that happens. Okay? Privately, Yah says, if your brother, the son of your mother, or your son, or your daughter, or your wife whom you love, or your friend who means as much to you as yourself, secretly, privately tries to entice you to go and serve other gods, which you haven't known, neither you nor your ancestors, gods of the people surrounding you, whether near or far away from you, anywhere in the world, you are not to consent, and you are not to listen to him. You must not pity him or spare him, and you may not conceal him. Rather, you must kill him. Your own hand must be first on him in putting him to death, and afterwards the hands of all the people. There is no witness when it's done in private. Proper context tells you this is the wife of your bosom. This is a friend of your best friend that came to you alone. This is your pillow talk with your woman laying on the side of you saying, I think we need to, they're doing this over here. That one. This is your son in quiet. He don't have his friends around. Hey, Dad. There is no necessity for this because it's done in private. So you can see that Yah has parameters for death upon idolatry, even if it's in privacy and even if it's done secretly. Just like we read in the Torah portion, I think a few weeks ago, where they talked about the curses that are on the people that do things in secret. Curses are put upon people in secret. You don't need witnesses for that which is done in secret. Which you need a witness for that which is done in public. Listen what the Torah says. In our Torah portion this week, it says publicly. One witness alone will not be sufficient to convict a person of any offense or sin of any kind. The matter will be established only if there are 2 or 3 witnesses testifying against him. Is Yahweh lying? Is Moshe telling us one thing out of one side of his mouth and something totally different on the other? No, because this doesn't have to do with somebody that's in your home. Do you need to go get a witness that your son is a drunkard? Do you need to go get a witness that your daughter's a prostitute? Do you need a witness? Or does he tell you to take them outside and bring them into the gates of the city? Or if your daughter's committed this crime, you don't need certain witnesses for certain things. But in reference to this, bringing an accusation against somebody that doesn't live in your home, you have no connection with, hearsay. Why do you think in the law today that you can't have your wife can't testify against you? Why she cannot be used as a witness? Why? They even know that part. You understand? She had to recuse, we call it what do they call it? Recuse ourselves from that. So there's a difference. So people think, well, I need two witnesses. You can't say this. One witness is not sufficient when we come to idolatry. No, I don't need a witness. I don't need a witness in idolatry. I need a witness if you committed any sin or you committed some other type of crime or some other type of thing like that. But other than that, I don't need a witness. The provision. The Torah in the Mishpatim, in closing, provides what we call a model and a framework that you and I need to work within, okay? He begins to tell us in our Torah portion that any person, listen to this, anyone who's from that family, I told you they can get you killed. I told you the presumptuous, the Zad, the Zid, the Zol, the Azan, the Naazan, they could get you killed. Boiling over, going beyond your border, going past the appropriate actions. Any presumptuous, anyone, enough not to pay attention to the Kohanim that is appointed to serve Yahweh your Elohim or the judge, that person must die. That's a ruling. Thus, you will exterminate such wickedness from Israel. All the people will hear about it and will be afraid to continue acting what? Like that family. That family of words that I told you about. Boiling up, angry. The person is standing there that's presumptuous is the person saying, I don't give a care about what you said. I'm going to do what I want to do anyway. And where's that coming from? That's coming from that stewing, that anger, that violence. They got to be right all the time. They don't care about what Yahweh says. That person got to be put to death. Do you not know the people that you and I are trying to tell about the Torah are living presumptuously as if they could go beyond the bounds of which Yahweh has set out in the framework? They're operating outside the framework of the rulings in the Mishpatim. They're going to be put to death, people. Yah's purpose, and he says, look, I'm going to rid the wickedness. We need to eliminate this from the midst of you, okay? In the Torah portion, it says, Beker Bakah. Beker Bakah means to be in the midst of you. I'm going to get rid of the idolatry because we need to get rid of this out of the midst of you. We're going to get rid of this uncleanness because it's in the midst of you. We need to get rid of the presumptuous because they're in the midst of you. So they're in the midst of the community. They're in the midst of the nation. They're in the midst of Israel. Any actions of one person can affect the whole entire nation. He says this person got to die because their behavior and the way they think and the way that they act and the way that they live in this arrogance and it's bubbling over and it's being frothy is not going to be named in Israel. That's the framework. So what we do can affect, idolatry can affect us. You understand? Presumption can affect us. Violence can affect us. Murder, hatred, arrogance, pride, arguing all the time. I need to get rid of this. Why? Because I'm protective. God is protective of what? His name. Moreover, is cursed the deceiver who has a male animal in his flock that is damaged, but vows and sacrifices Yahweh anyway. I'm a great king, says Yahweh Zavaoth, and my name is Yarah. It's feared among the nations. In our Torah portion, we read in Devarim 17:1, you're not to sacrifice to Yahweh your Elohim a cow or a sheep that has a defect or anything wrong with it. That would be an abomination to Yahweh your Elohim. Why would he take occasion to this? What do we know from this? A defect from our Hebrew means that it's a mum. Okay, so M-U-M. It's a mum. And a mum is called a defect. Okay, a mum. M-U-M. Forgive it, I got to use my finger because the pen don't want to work. A mum. Okay. And a mum means that there's something wrong with it. And Yah is telling us that, guess what? I don't want nothing that has any defects in it. You offer that to me. It's filthy to me. It's disgusting. It's abomination. And guess what? You're cursed. I'm going to curse you. But also, I want to let you know something. I am looking for perfection. So if you're saying that a cow and a sheep could be perfect, right? Is that what you're saying? Yes, they can be, right? So if a cow and a sheep can be perfect, can you be perfect? If Yah's expectation is to give a perfect cow or a sheep without defect, what is he expecting from you? Or is not your life greater than the cow and the sheep? You mean that you don't, does the cow and the sheep, do they follow instructions? You put a yoke on a cow's neck or an ox, it goes exactly where you want it to go. You put the staff next to a sheep, it'll go where you need it to go. Yeah, they have some stubbornness in them sometimes. There's some things about a cow, sometimes an oxen. And when we find that those things are inside of that in particular animal, I'm going to put it to death, like I told you in the Torah. But I do expect this from you. If you follow my ways, you will fall into perfection. Because my perfection is being complete. My perfection means obedience. My perfection means be humble. My perfection means to be gentle. That's my perfection. My perfection means to be righteous. My perfection is gentleness and to be justice and equality. I'm protective of my heritage. And who is my heritage? You're my heritage. His own people is his heritage. Yaakov is Yahweh's heritage. You're his heritage. Of all the peoples on the face of the earth, he chose you. I'm protective. I'm only going to protect my name in the kodoshness, the set apartness of it. I'm going to protect my heritage. I'm going to protect the descendants of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Why? Because I already told you that I've established my covenant with the day and the night, and I fixed the laws for the sky and the earth. I will, okay, if I haven't done that, then I'll reject the descendants of Yaakov and of my servant David, not choosing from his descendants, plural, people to rule over the descendants of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. I will cause their captives to come back, and I will show them compassion. I'm bringing you back. And I'm going to show compassion. On who? The ones who followed what I said. My compassion is for those who love and keep my commandments. I already told you that in Devarim 7. I already told you. My compassion is not for the wicked. I will show no pity to nobody who disrespects my laws and statutes and commandments. If you don't have any respect for what I said, you're dead, period. I offered you peace and shalom, and I gave you enough time. But I protect justice, equality, and freedom. You may not be equal in position. You may not be a king. You may not be a priest. You may not be a Kohanim. You might not be a Leviim. But I'm fair to everybody. I seek and chase that which is right because my throne was established upon righteousness and Mishpot, which is justice. Because I'm the judge of all the earth. I protect freedom from oppression and tyranny. I protect. I protect the Leviim, the stranger, and the widow, and the fatherless. I protect them. I'm very protective of them. I'm so protective that you must neither wrong nor oppress a foreigner living among you. For you yourselves are foreigners in the land of Mizraim. You are not to abuse any widow, orphan. If you do abuse them in any way, and they cry to me, I will certainly heed their cry. My anger will burn, and I will kill you with the sword. Your own wives will be widows, and your own children fatherless. And that's found in the book of Shemot, chapter number 22, verse 21 through 23, which is a Torah portion called Mishpatim. These are my rulings. And I will protect them because they have nobody else to protect them. The same law that I gave to the foreigner, I gave to you. Everybody, equality. I give the poor the same opportunity, the same love, the same concern. And I'm asking for you to be protective like I am. My name is great. I am a king. I am very protective of my name. Therefore, you tell the house of Israel that the supreme master Yahweh says this. I'm not going to do this for your sake, house of Israel, but for the sake of my set apart name, my kadosh name, which you have been profaning among the nations where you went. In context, coming to get you and bring you back like I told your ancestors. I'm protective of my name. That's the framework. That's what this is about. Yah has spoken greatly to us today. He's caused us to understand that judgment is not what we think it is or what we've been taught. I will show mercy to those who are merciful. But the mercy that they show has to be in alignment with the Torah. My nephew came and spent the night with us last night. I haven't seen him in a long time. He doesn't follow the Torah. My wife woke up this morning and said, such and such is here. I said, oh, that's wonderful. She said, well, I'm going to give him my breakfast that I prepared for yesterday for Shabbat. And I'll just have something else. Right? So she gave her breakfast to him. And I thought to myself, I said, I said to her, I said, I wish that my mother would have been like that. Not that my mother wouldn't have given her food to somebody else, but that she would have been doing it in the manner that had to do with the Torah and had to do with the Shabbat. Often we can do good things. There are good people out here from our perspective. Someone else would have gave them the same thing, gave them another, but they didn't do it based on the Shabbat. The purpose behind her doing that was for the sake of him not having to go buy another meal or leave here because there's, we're not religious. Well, we can't cook anything, so you might have to go buy yours. I already got mine. I'm sorry, I have nothing for you. So I thought about that. And I pondered it and I thought that people do good stuff. My mother would have gave a meal to somebody, but she would have never done it on the sake of the Shabbat. People do good stuff all the time. But if they don't have the framework of the Mishpatim and the Kukim and the Torah and the judgments of Yah, all that means absolutely nothing. No good that anybody can do outside of the Torah means absolutely nothing to Yahweh if you got off of this path. Why is the emphasis and the excitement in the pressurized speech? Because I see the multi-dimensional understanding of that the judgment can have compassion in it. But also I see the other side where there's no mercy. There's no pity shown. You understand? I won't forget, like I've been forgetting for the last couple of weeks, about what's next. Our next parsha is going to be Ki Tetzeh, okay? And it's in Davarim, chapter number 21, verse number 10 to 25, 19. You can write that down in Isaiah 54 and 1 through 55 and 5. Isaiah is what you would call Yashayahu, which is called a Haftarah. And whatever's in that part of the scroll correlates to that which is written. You have to look for the connection between Deuteronomy 21 and 10 and 25, and make a connection between 54 and 1 through 55. There's different elements in there that kind of causes you to open up your understanding about what's going on. Often the Torah talks about things that Yah tells us things not to do. And then when you look in the prophets, you see the very things that he told them not to do are the things that they did. And it shows the results of those actions, right? So we don't want to forget to read that part of the Torah, or excuse me, the Torah portion. That's is called the Haftarah. So you want to read that. You want to read the prophets because it enhances your understanding and your learning. Okay. So with that being said, I said, is there any remarks, questions, contributions? Did anyone like to add any statements? Yes, Azania. Hallelujah.
Shabbat Shalom. I have a question I'd like to ask, please. You know how it says in Torah, and I'm trying to figure out, is this a mishpatim? It's just a judgment, and it speaks to our countenance in the last days. Ezekiel 16, it says twice, then you will remember your ways and be ashamed. Jeremiah 31, it says, verses 8 and 9, when he brings us from the north countries, and they shall come weeping. Jeremiah 50, it speaks again, and they shall come weeping they shall come with continual weeping. It speaks that our countenance for the last day should be shame and weeping, that we should be covered with great shame for what we've done. And we see that that's not so, mostly with the New Testament camps. They want the other nations to be covered with shame.